different today. We want to pray. Let's start off with prayer for one another. A lot of people need prayer today. We have a lot of people that are part of this group that need prayer. Robbie is in the ER right now. Have breathing issues and up all night, so went to the ER this morning. She's there right now. TJ's had the flu, and he's trying to help her, so that's kind of a complicated deal. Layla's not feeling well this morning, and heard from her mama, and so pray for her. But a lot of people here probably, we are connected with those who have trouble. God knows where we are. We trust in Him. And I believe by faith that we can pray the prayer of faith and God heals the sick. So let's pray together. Father, we just thank you for your goodness, for the mercy of God, and I just thank you for your healing on those today that need your touch, and those that are in emergency situations, those that are feeling the weight of illness heavy on their life today. I pray that you'd move upon them. Lord, thank you for your blessing in our life. Thank you because you are the creator of the divine plan, and it includes healing, and we trust in you. We ask you to fulfill your purpose, Lord, to let your will be done in our life today, here in this service. God, reach out and let the Spirit of God flow to those who are in need, those that are distressed, and those that need your touch. We have confidence in you to fulfill the plan and purpose that you have for us today. Thank you for your peace in the midst of the storm, for your help in the time of trouble. We know that you are with us. Will you just keep your eyes closed for a moment, but keep your head bowed. Let the Spirit of the Lord touch you as we begin this service today. Just start off in the presence of God and let Him lift you up. peace and presence of God is really strong. Nobody has to say it. You know it. Let God do His work in your heart. We come to church and we know there's certain things that we'll do, and a lot of times it almost becomes routine. Take this time in the obvious presence of God to let Him heal your heart, to help you to quit trying to figure out everything and just trust Him, to help you to get past that rough place. Just allow His presence to minister to you right now. The Bible says, cast your care on the Lord because He cares for you. Just dump it on Him. He can take it. And then let the joy of the Lord be your strength. Just like it was in the chorus before that we sang. His joy is our strength. Thank you, God.
Leave it there. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. If you'll trust and never doubt, He will surely bring you out.
offering today. Let me make a few announcements while that's happening. I really appreciate everybody that jumped in last Wednesday when Claudio and Sue Ann were gone and helped us out with the youth. And we do that every week. We appreciate that and thank you for your help. We'll have youth and kids this week, same time, 7 o'clock right here. And then adults meet down at Old Dock Soda Shop. Have a good time down there. A few things that are coming up. In your giving today, remember VBS and youth camp. We'll be doing that, getting that going, and so it takes money to make that work, getting all the plans together for that right now. Sally, did you need to say anything about VBS?
I'll have sign-up sheets next week, so be thinking.
Yeah, man, we're
What you
almost to
wanna
March,
do.
so this is getting close, getting close. All right, youth, we need to say anything about camp or youth or anything?
I'm really excited about camp this year because we have a lot of new students that have not gone before, and they are saying that they want to go, And when I say a lot, there's like 15 that have never been to camp before and want to go. So I'm just
Man, that's
excited
great.
about that.
Praise God.
Life has changed many times at camp. The experience those kids go through there. And we got a lot of kids wanting to go that have never been to anything similar to that. You know, our churches and are the only thing they know in regard to something like that. So it'd be a great experience for them. We will be having the Life Plans group on March 17th this next time. Here's the sign-up sheet. If you're going to be a part of that, please sign up to participate in it. Have some names on it already. Also, in July, we will be going on a trip to Guatemala. And if you are going, I need your name on this sheet right here. I will be ordering tickets within a week from today. So I need your name if you are planning to go. I need to know that this week. We will have a great time. There will be work for anybody in any category. Don't worry. We won't make you do something you can't do. In fact, nobody can make you do anything, right? But we will, although projects, we will be working on a Child Hope School, that's for sure. But there are all kinds of things that can be done, and they fit it to people's ability to do it. If you're wondering about cost, our flight will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 for the flight, and then in country will be about $550 to $600. So we're talking about $1,200 to $1,300 probably the total cost. Anything beyond that will be just what you decide to spend on your own. So that will cover all of your in-country costs and your flight there and back. We will bring you back. No, that's part of the plan. So if you want to go, I need to know. It's July 5th, and it might be that we change to the 4th, which would be, everybody's off on the 4th usually anyway. We had originally scheduled July 5th to the 12th, but what we have learned is that flights are more expensive on the 5th. Yeah, they're a lot cheaper, and I'm talking almost $200 cheaper on the 4th. So we will probably leave the evening or afternoon of the 4th instead of the 5th. So we're saying now July 4th through the 12th. So if you're planning to go, I need to know this week. And I will be ordering tickets based on that later in the week. All right. I think that's it. Oh, now one more thing. We are in need of repair of our AC in the fellowship hall. It's a major deal. That AC over there, as those of you that work over there know, it is very unreliable. It has been for several years. It's to the point now we're going to have a lot reworked on it, on the main unit for the main part, up to our first bid is in the $6,000 range. So we're talking about a good deal of money. We're going to get some other bids. But if you would like to give toward that, we want you to know that that is coming up. And of course, by summer, by warm weather, right now it's hard to think about it getting hot, but it will be 100 degrees again, I promise you. And when it is, we need to have that working. So the heat works, it's just the AC side is iffy. So we need to get that redone. All right, guys, come on. As you give today, remember those things and give. worship to God. Keith, would you ask blessing on the offering, please?
Lord, thank you today, Lord, thank you for this congregation. Lord, I pray that you just bless this church and bless this ministry, this community. In your name I pray. Amen.
Lord, I come. Lord, I come. Take my life. Take my life. I offer it to you. A living sacrifice. By your grace. By your grace. By your blood. By your blood. I come into the Holy of Holies, and all I want to do is to dwell in your presence and drink from the well that never runs dry. And all I want to see is the light of your glory. Just one glimpse, just one dream, and my soul is satisfied. And Lord, I come. Lord, I come. Take my life. Take my life. I offer it to you. A living sacrifice. By your There's someone here this morning that I feel right now that you're going through something today that has you very, very down and discouraged. This is not what God wants for you. This is not from God. You must, at this point, put it in God's hands. Without doing that, you will not get the answer you need. Confusion has become a way of life for you. You don't see any other way to live your life other than just be confused. But that's not from God. God is here to free you this morning. To free your heart, to free your mind, to free your emotions. No more confusion. No more discouragement. Whoever you are, this is exactly for you. Lord, I come. Lord, I come. Take my life. Take my life. I offer it to you. A living sacrifice. By your grace. By your grace. By your blood. By your blood. I come into the Holy of Holies. And all I want to do is to dwell in your presence. Drink from the well that never runs dry. And all I want to see is a light of glory. Just one dreams, just one dream. My soul is satisfied.
Wow, praise God. Thank God.
Yes, hallelujah.
Let's let our kids go to children's church. While they do, get some coffee, say hello to somebody, get donut. Don't leave, we're not done.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Pretty well. How about y'all? Good, man. Busy don't want to be. Yeah, busy don't want to be. Put that way. Yes, sir. Like it's been 18 a while. Me too. Take a little time. Good seeing you, sir. Curtis?
How you doing?
I know, I'm the same way. She stays busy. Yeah, I'm certainly the job. She tries to stay far away from me. She doesn't so.
Okay, you bet.
We ain't even talking about the words. Mine's getting pretty thin, so I can't see my face going.
I went yesterday, how are you?
Is it?
Yes,
They get better.
yes,
I doubt if you want to go by.
Getting around pretty well now.
How are you doing?
Now, this is,
All right, music player, I guess we gotta go on. All right, if you need a bulletin, raise your hand and Keith will get you one. Do I need a bulletin? Okay. Guess you already got it. What's up, brother? You did the wrong way. I'll give you all kind of good stuff. Okay, now they're sitting down. Going to be reading from Isaiah chapter 8 today. The Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does. Oh, wow. How do we miss that? And I know this is Old Testament, but same similar thoughts spread to the New Testament. The Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does. The power of God at work in your life as a believer should trigger something in you that causes you to go, well, wait a minute. When somebody comes up with a way of thinking that is not God,
amen.
there should be something inside of you that triggers, that keeps you from falling in that same way of thinking. I brought some artifacts. These are genuine missionary artifacts. I know because my mother-in-law bought them on location from the countries they are from when she was visiting those places. She had all kinds of artifacts, and that's what happens when you die. Somebody else gets it and can do anything they want to with it. So, I'm using her stuff as analogies or examples. This is high quality stuff. You know, when I go on trips, I have usually spent everything I had to go on the trip. I don't have money to buy stuff this expensive. This is good stuff. But she bought this in Israel. I don't know where the leopard came from, but they went to Senegal and several places in Africa and several different countries, so we have stuff from all over those places. But these animals, and these are very good representations of them, and we all are familiar from watching TV, at least. Some of you may have been places and seen these in the wild, but I actually rode a camel at a circus one time. And Judy rode a camel in Israel. Got a picture of that. I was too busy taking pictures to ride on. But this is like, these animals are all big animals with interesting lives, and I'm not going to give you an example of all of them. Or talk about all of them in detail, but they all think different. What the giraffe sees as food is way up here in the treetops. Mostly tree branches, tree leaves, things like that. Why he's built that way, or she's built that way in this case. They eat from the tops of the trees. Leaves look like food to them. I mean, that's their chicken fried steak right there. The green leaves in the top of the tree. That's what they want. That's what, oh man, look, food. And they're looking way over there. A leopard doesn't have any interest in green leaves at all. None whatsoever, except maybe to hide him. Leopards, in case you're wondering, jaguars and leopards are very closely related, although one is in one hemisphere and the other in the other. Jaguars here used to range all the way from Arizona down to Argentina. Now their range has been condensed greatly by man, and so there's not any in America anymore, probably. A few strange people on Facebook probably saw them, but not Jaguars and leopards are very similar. A jaguar is stockier, has a broader head, they're more aggressive, and I don't know, I've never confronted either one of them, but they're more aggressive. And the spots on a jaguar have a dot in the middle, where a leopard spots are like a rosette with an open hole. A jaguar has a dot in the middle. So right there you can tell when you go to the zoo whether it's a jaguar or a leopard without reading the little sign. You can just look, what are they? Very aggressive animal with no interest at all in leaves. And he likes meat. Anything that bleeds, in fact. Any kind of animal that he feels like he could catch easy enough. Leopards are not real confrontational. They will back off from lions and hyenas. They won't fight them over food usually, but they will track down and catch or jump on something that is meat and devour it. They are very aggressive eaters. They love to hunt. So they see the world differently. And then this interesting creature, who, by the way, some of them were brought to the United States. Salt is a very important thing in the world, always has been. And in fact, a lot of wars have been fought over salt. But a man had an idea back in the 1800s, back during the American Civil War. He had an idea about carrying. One of the problems with salt was once they got it to the shore, to the harbor on the west coast, was transporting it other places. And so he thought camels would work. So he went and got camels from the Far East, brought them to America, and brought about 35 of them. Only about 15 of them survived the trip by the boat, on the boat. Got them here, and they wound up, it didn't really work out economically for him, so he just turned them loose. They must not survive well in America because you don't just drive up and see camels running around out in the Grand Canyon or anything. So they probably all just died of starvation and terrible death. But these guys are known for a whole different deal. Now, they eat like a lot of our domesticated livestock here. they eat grain or grass as their natural, grasses are their natural foods, and dry grasses. Man, they can live on stuff that other animals looks like they wouldn't survive on. What they see, and they're not going to reach up the top of the tree for the green leaves, that's not their deal. They're going to eat off the ground, the grass growing up out of the ground, but these guys can go without water for long periods of time. And, of course, one of the reasons they were domesticated and used by man was because of that. And man figured out they could use those animals as a beast of burden to help them travel. And they didn't have to worry as much about water and the desert heat. These guys are very adaptable to that, and their feet are fixed by God to endure the hot dirt of the deserts. And so these animals come from completely different areas, completely different ways of life, and completely different ways of thinking. Do you see how simple that is? Then why do we think that as born-again believers, we should think like the rest of the world thinks? We should not be normal. Nobody in this room has to worry about that. We should be different on purpose. The Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does. He said, don't call everything a conspiracy like they do. Isn't that interesting? And don't live in dread of what frightens them. Two things, if you could factor those two things into your life right now, go ahead and do it. Don't call everything a conspiracy. You know, some things are a conspiracy. There are some things that, you know, people are plotting and people are planning. You know, there's still the rumor and the discussion and the debate, which will always exist probably, about the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. I personally think that was a conspiracy. I don't think it was a one-man deal. I've been over to the location and walked through it and thought about it. It's been a lot of years reading books and things on it. Don't mean I know, but I think from what I can figure that it's more than just one guy, Lee Harvey Oswald, and the way that all went down. But not everything in the world is a conspiracy. And not everything that happens in life to other people is something for you to be fearful about.
Amen.
Look what it says. Don't live in dread of what frightens them. Yeah. People out there, people that don't know God, are going to be scared about a lot of stuff. You should not be scared like they are scared.
Right.
You should not be frightened by what frightens them. One reason we trust in God. Some of the stuff we sang about today. The reason we trust in God is because He gives us peace to walk in. Yeah. He helps us not to be frightened by those things.
Right.
Even as young as I am, I remember when Russia brought armed ships into Cuba. How many were around for that event? And those armed ships were sitting there with their armaments ready. And President John F. Kennedy, thank God we had somebody with guts and stamina, John F. Kennedy told Khrushchev at a little negotiation table, move the ships or we're going to attack you. Get them out of Cuba. I mean, in 90 miles from our coastline. Get them away from there, we're going to attack you. And I guess Mr. Kennedy didn't look like he was bluffing, and Khrushchev moved them. Well, during this time this was all going on, some little kids down the street, we lived on Selma Street in Fort Worth at the time, and some little kids down the street were telling me, the Russians are going to attack us. They'd heard their parents talk. And they were telling me. And everybody was scared. The Russians are going to attack. We're going to get attacked by the communists. And boy, all this stuff was going on. We're going to be bombed. And blah, blah, before we knew how it was coming out, people were scared. So I went home and I told Mama. I said, the kids down the street told me that we're going to be attacked by the Russians. And she said, you go tell them kids we ain't scared of the Russians. We trust in Jesus. So guess who went and told them that? I did. I went and told them, we ain't scared of the Russians, we trust in Jesus. And I remember how the difference changed from one gear to the other and my mama might have been scared to death, I don't know, but she acted like that she was trusting God. We should not be living in that world or in that framework. And it's tempting to be sucked into that. It's tempting because this is the only life we know so far. Now, I believe we're all going to go and spend eternity with God. As a believer, you're going to spend eternity with God, but most of us haven't been there yet. And a lot of people that wrote stories about going there and coming back were lying. So we made movies about it, we wrote books about it, we did all kinds of things about it, we still don't know. No, we don't know. God don't want you to know yet. You live in this world because we are here. This is the life we know. But as believers, our confidence should be in God. That's what believing is about, right?
Amen.
Let's read. Make the Lord of heaven's armies holy in your life. Wow. And that's the reason some of us, we have trouble with fear and that sort of thing, because He's not first. He is the one you should fear. He is the one. He is the one who should make you tremble. The power of God is the only thing that you should really be scared about. And that's why we walk in obedience to Him, because we know He has the power to do whatever He chooses to do. He will keep you safe. He will keep you safe. But to Israel and Judah, He will be a stone that makes people stumble, a rock that makes them fall. Now this is prophecy. Remember Jesus said that rock of offense? That's who He was. He was that stumbling block. And for the people of Jerusalem, He will be a trap and a snare. They didn't recognize Jesus when He came. Many will stumble and fall, never to rise again. They will be snared and captured. Preserve the teaching of God. Entrust His instructions to those who follow Him. Someone may say to you, I skipped a few verses, that's why I made the gap there. Let's ask the mediums, and those who consult the spirits of the dead with their whisperings and mutterings. They will tell us what to do. Let's go to a psychic. Let's get our fortune read. Let's do some of that nonsense. But shouldn't people ask God for guidance?
Yes.
Should the living seek guidance from the dead? Look to God's instructions and teachings. People who contradict His words are completely in the dark. Wow.
Yes.
Remember that the next time you're reading something on the internet that completely disagrees with God.
Amen.
It sounds like good wording, but it don't agree with God. They will go from one place to another, weary and hungry, and because they are hungry, they will rage and curse their king and their God. They will look up to heaven and down at the earth, but wherever they look, there will be trouble and anguish and dark despair. They will be thrown out into the darkness. Gloom, anguish, darkness, and despair. Reminds me of hee-haw. Gloom, despair, and agony on thee. I'll spare you the song. I won't sing it. Say thank you. Some people live in that mode.
Yes.
And no wonder life does never get any better for them. Because they live in that mode of this being the only thing we trust in. Of this being the only life there is. Of this being all there is to it. When the Apollo 8 astronauts went up into space and began that journey, their first communication back to Earth was, we have a message for all of humanity. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Amen.
Tremendous stuff. Because when you get in that city, you realize there's more to it than this little stuff. This little we're a dot on a dot in infinite space. And God cares for you. And God bothered to inspire people to write the Word. And so you shouldn't be walking in fear like those who don't believe. Bad things happen to good people. Many of you know that firsthand. Bad things happen because the world is like that. But God never planned for you to walk in fear, dread of what might happen.
Amen.
Or the conspiracy of all that. Look to Him and learn from Him, He says. Some people go to all kinds of sources. And you see this on social media. Oh, just be you and live like you. Live how it pleases you. Live what suits you. That's not what the Bible says. Oh, that sounds good. Just be you. Sounds good. I don't know if you've seen you or not. You might want to take another look at that.
Amen.
Without God, we are all on a negative spin. We all will do our own thing. See, these animals I have up here by nature do certain things. By nature. Is it noticeable or interesting that this animal has a harness on it, bridle, and this one doesn't? Most people don't have a pet leopard. I'm sure there's somebody. Go ahead and Google it. I'm sure there's somebody. Look on Facebook. There's somebody that supposedly has it. I would not sleep in the room with him if I were you. But this one is known for being domesticated. It's known for being used by man, being subjected by training to what man wants. This one, you laughed when I said it wasn't wearing a bridle. Of course not. The believer should be in a whole different way of behaving because we've learned from God. I hate to break it to you, but sin brings consequences that are destructive to your life. And God wants you to be trained in a way to steer clear of that. And He wants to help you to learn from that. The verse that I put over to the side, Matthew 13:12, to those who listen to my teaching, more understanding will be given, and they will have an abundance of knowledge. Wow, that's good.
Amen.
If you're listening to God. But for those who are not listening, even what little understanding they have will be taken away from them. You know what that means in my English? They will get dumber and dumber. Have you ever noticed that people who willfully keep disobeying God seem to get dumber and dumber? They just keep this, they go down a path that takes them further and further and further, and the mess gets more and more messed up. Now, we've all made mistakes. We have all sinned. We've all done things we don't want to bring back and think about. And on some things we hope we don't have to reap serious consequences over. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Amen.
But people who willfully walk away from the teaching of God and quit listening to the Lord just get dumber and dumber. Even the understanding they have will be taken away. They just willfully walk in that path where they're not letting God lead them. They're not doing the things they need to do. They're not walking in that path of obedience. When God says don't do that and we still do it because I'm just being me. Me without God is evil.
That's right.
Let the Spirit of the Lord teach you and train you. See, the listening part is what's hard. It's the listening. When I lived in Sweetwater, I worked horses a lot out there. and thought I was a cowboy back then. And I messed with horses all the time. I would say, people at church would say something to me about where I was headed or what. Oh, I'm counseling today. And y'all know I wasn't counseling people, right? Yeah. And I was out working horses. And one thing, you know, that you learn about when you work with animals a little is that some of them listen or pay attention, and some of them just don't have it in them. You have to really work it in. A horse that I had for a long time that I worked cattle on and roped off of and did all kinds of things, he was great. His name was Rio. And some of you might remember him. I had him when I first came here. I brought him here. He's since gone to horse heaven, but in 2011, he went to horse heaven. But he was one of those guys that when I first met Rio, he belonged to a friend of mine. I went out to help my friend work cows, and we were saddling horses, and he said, saddle that horse right there. You want to ride him today? He was just barely a 2-year-old. And I said, is he broke? Or you want me to get hurt for you? And he said, no, he's fine. He's pretty broke. So I put a bridle on him, started getting him ready, saddled him, started getting ready to put a bridle on him. And he just Rio liked people. He wasn't great. I mean, starting out, he didn't know anything. He wasn't smart. But he liked people. And he just fell into it. I got on, we rode, had to catch some cows and got out of the fence and got over in another place that wasn't fenced. We had to run them down and do some stuff. And we roped this cow. We couldn't pin her. There was no pin to pin her in. Finally, a couple of guys roped her. And I jumped down real quick off Rio, just dropped the reins and ran over there and helped them get her so we could get her loaded. And I turned around figuring this young horse that I just took off on that day would be gone to somewhere else because I just dropped the reins when I jumped down. Didn't have time to do anything else. I figured he'd be long gone. We get done, I look up. He's about 40 feet over here just grazing and watching what's going on. I walk up, pick up the reins. He's just fine. Everything's happy. Everything's lovely. So we get back and I tell my friend, I want that horse. And he said, well, I just got him. I said, I'll buy him for what do you want for it? I'll buy him. So he named me the price and I bought him that day. Bought that horse. He had what we say when we work with horses, he had a good mind. He had a good mind. Because I've seen horses that if you let go of them, they're gone to the moon. As fast as they can go. Not Rio. And he was only thing bad about him was when I was working on the barn or the shed, if he was around, he was nudging me in the back or grabbing my tools and moving them. He was always in the middle of what I was doing. He wanted to be right there. I never had to chase him down to catch him. I didn't have to even use a feed bucket to catch him. If I showed up, he came to see what was going on. Good mind. Well, there's some people that have a good mind. They're just good people. And they just want to do good. And they had good mamas or good raising. And they just grew up that way. And then there's some people that their mind is on everything else that it shouldn't be. And it starts when they're this big. Some of us have to work harder at listening than others. Some of you have a bigger challenge than others. Sitting still in school was a challenge for me. But my daddy had a solution for it. They would have probably nowadays given me pills, but my daddy had a fix and didn't require no medication and no doctor's visits. It's tough, but it worked. Now I have a job at school where I can move around all day long. Listen to God. Listen to God about every part of your life. I preached several weeks ago about finances, and some of y'all have taken steps on that and have come and told me that you have. That's how I know. And you're seeing results. Trust God with everything you do. Don't get your morality from the internet. Don't get your morality from TV. your morality from the Word of God. Just because a whole bunch of people think it's okay, don't make it okay. The Bible is still the last truth. It is still the final word that we will be judged by. And by nature, we are different. But God can, by His power, by His grace and mercy, bring us into a place where we walk in faith and listen to Him. And He can let you know. Teach your kids what it's like to listen to God. To do what you think you ought to do. I grew up in an era when preachers preached about every kind of thing being sin. If they didn't like it, they preached against it. Some of them because they really thought it was wrong. Some of them just picked stuff, I think. I remember one time I was a kid, one of the preachers preached against drinking coffee. He was the Antichrist, I think. Wolf in sheep's clothing. But he preached against drinking coffee, which my dad was pretty fond of. My dad was fond of a lot of stuff preachers preached against. But he preached against drinking coffee, and the next week, he pulled up beside us an A&W root beer. Wasn't nothing wrong with drinking root beer. It's just coffee that was the sin. I guess root beer, I don't know if it had caffeine in it back then or not, but the old A&W root beer, any of y'all old enough to remember them, driving into them, and remember that? He pulled right up beside us, Daddy said, well, look at that, the preacher that don't like coffee drinks root beer. And Daddy thought it was funny. He was laughing about it. He thought that was hilarious. I know what it's like to grow up in an era like that. I remember preachers preaching against wearing gym shorts. Remember that? You parents go to school and tell those coaches your kids ain't wearing those shorts. I went home and asked my mama, is that sin? She said, do you think it is? And I said, I never thought about it. I think so. I was about 9, 10 years old. She said, you do what you feel like God wants you to do. That's wisdom from mom. At that point, especially when kids were getting beat for that kind of stuff. This one right here rubbed her little skirt her mama made her, because she couldn't wear shorts. Rubbed her skirt on the gym floor to get it dirty and take it home so it needed to be laundered, and a friend of hers loaned her shorts to wear in gym class. That's how rebellious that woman is. And she is still one of those kind God has to work on every day. I'm not talking about the little nitpicking stuff of the clothesline preaching era. And the things that people promote and change, you know, in charismatic churches, full gospel, we worship. Oh, there was a time we waved our hand, we did like this. There was a time we did like this, like they were dumping it on us. Then we do this, then we do all, and we dance and we do all the other stuff, whatever it is that, goes through. And then I've heard preachers preach on one and against the other. Man, when we changed from singing out of a songbook to singing from scripture choruses on a screen, Lord, you'd have thought we was all going to hell in a handbasket. It's terrible there. People quit going to church over it. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. That's that Dumb and Dumber deal. Yeah. I'm talking about the wisdom that comes from God. Listening to the Lord and not thinking like other people think.
Amen.
Yes.
See, because the great inventions of the world have all been created by people who didn't think like other people thought. The things that you love, like this little device right here, those components that put it together. Watch the special on NASA Channel the other night about cell phones. Cool deal. The people who thought of that stuff don't think like everybody else thinks. I don't know why we want to think like everybody else. Teenagers, kids, I don't know why you want to think like everybody else. Be different. Be different on purpose. with everybody someday is going to have trouble over that. And you know the one that's wanting to have sex with you is having sex with other people too. And they're going to create issues. And this Bible says that will happen. There's going to be problems. There are adults walking around in this community with many, many problems because they didn't listen to that one thing right there.
Amen. Amen.
God has told us things for a reason. He has given us instructions for a purpose. Don't think like others think. Don't fall into that trap that others have fallen into. I'm not real creative mechanically. If it had been up to me and people like me only, we'd probably all still be riding around on horses, or probably wouldn't even have the wheel invented. I'd have just been going along with whatever the latest deal was. In that category, I'd have just been trying to keep it from breaking. Just keep that working. But there are, thank God, there were people creative enough that we can have all that stuff.
Yes.
That it can happen. And it's great, man. It's great that we have that. Be different. Make up your mind to do that. And to listen to the teaching of the Lord. Because if you do, you will have an abundance. There will be more. And some of you young people that are just getting started on this adult deal in life, let it be under the guidance of God. And every part of your life. Don't get it from watching Friends or Big Bang Theory or any of that stuff on TV. Don't get your life ideas from that. Get what God has for you from this right here. And read it and understand what the will of God is. Let's pray. God, I'm thankful that you made me a meat eater. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, God, that I don't have to climb trees and eat leaves. Thank you for pinto beans and bacon and chicken fried steak and sirloins, meat. Thank you, God, for what you have created and done that is positive for us. Thank you for giving us benefits in life that we can enjoy. In fact, your word said you gave us all things freely to enjoy, but help us. Oh God, help us not to go the way of the crowd. As believers, help us not to get caught up in life's stupidity, ignorance, and shame. Help us to walk in faith. God, forgive us of the mistakes we've made. Forgive us for the bad decisions, for the poor judgment, and help us from this point on to listen to you and not think like others think. not something that you can change in a few moments on a Sunday morning, but as you allow God to work in your heart, you can change the whole way you do life. And God will bless you. I've been working with kids a long time and around kids for a long time. The first job Judy and I had in ministry, I taught Sunday school and she worked with little girls and missionettes, and then we worked together in youth group, and then we pastored church together, and we've been around kids. I worked in schools, she's worked in other schools. One of the most disturbing things I see nowadays, 30 years ago, kids that were doing wrong stuff knew it was wrong. We're hiding it, we're ashamed of it. Now kids that are doing wrong stuff don't even think it's anything wrong with it because mom and dad does the same thing. Because people close to them do the same thing. They're not even ashamed of it. In fact, they brag about it. That's a change I've seen in my lifetime. I wasn't a saint. I grew up like all kids grow up. There are things that we all wish had not happened in our lives. But when we just nod or ignore and let things go, we create a whole mentality that goes against the Word and against God. And then we have a whole society that doesn't know the difference in right and wrong. An example of modern day America. Last summer when I stood by the grave of my great-great-grandfather who fought in the 13th Kentucky Cavalry in the Union Army, was a chaplain in the Civil War. When he came out of the Union Army at the end of the Civil War, he started a church there in the next county. I stood by his grave with tears in my eyes thinking, thank God. My great-great-grandpa never knew me. We never knew each other, of course. Big gap there. Thank God this man, his decisions may have changed my life. It may have changed where I wound up. See, his son became a preacher and came to Texas, was born in Texas. Buried in East Texas. And his daughter was my granny, who believed in God with all her heart. That decision, that man's decision way back there. And I stood there looking at his grave, Robert Franklin Mills, looking at his grave and thinking, thank you, God, that this man made the choices he made. Listen to God. Because someday, that's all that's going to be left of you. And I'm not trying to be morbid today, but all that's going to be left of you is a gravestone on the side of a hill somewhere, and a descendant of yours who's going to someday come and visit that and stand there and look at that, and what will be their feelings and their response. Will it be, oh, you messed up? You put me here? You created this environment, you allowed things to happen? Or will it be one of gratitude? Thank you. Thank you for making a good choice that probably affected my life 4 generations later. God bless you. Have a great day.